process is not complex with respect to procurement across all ministries, particularly your ministry, when the people who are in charge of the procurement actually honestly do their job and follow the rules. Would you agree with that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. President. Yes, I would.
Thank you. To you, Ms. Carruthers, again, earlier in this meeting, you made a couple of comments that piqued my interest. One is that you are firmly of the belief, notwithstanding this damning report from the auditor department, that you delivered value for money, you delivered value for Canadians, your words, and that you're also of the mindset that there is no evidence of wrongdoing with respect to the factual findings of a very small sample, a sample of under 100 contracts, over 8,000 contracts in total over this 4-year period, a fail rate of close to 25%. You determine there's no evidence of wrongdoing. You may conclude that there's been instances of irregularities, but I view this from a different lens. I view this from the lens of a former Crown attorney for 30 years. And there is clear examples, in my view, of criminality here and outright corruption. The Trudeau government, the whole department with respect to procurement and contracting in general, is just rife with abuse and mismanagement. And it's
point of order, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Mr. Brock is completely, misdirecting and misinforming and this committee.
That's not a point of order, Chair.
Okay, I will decide what's a point of order or not, and make your comment brief, Mr. Genuis.
I would just refer Mr. Kuzmierczak to the scripture I referred to earlier about trying to.
Thank you, Mr. Genuis. Mr. Kuzmierczak, it's not a point of order, and I will comment. I find it very ironic this coming from you after your last intervention. I don't think anyone should be throwing rocks inside of glass houses. Mr. Brock, continue, please.
Yes. So the culture of abuse and mismanagement in the Justin Trudeau government is alive and well at Global Affairs. The instances of irregularities that you call it, I call it corruption, no signed contracts, yet money was paid out, contracts signed for services rendered after the fact, one contract signed by an individual who benefited from the transaction, contract splitting.
Appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Translation again.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. The sound was of poor quality.
We're obviously having lots of tech issues today. Do you want to just back up?
Is there still a problem?
Let me
just check.
Is there
still a problem, Chair?
Yeah, I'm afraid it's just not coming. You're perfectly loud and clear inside the room. Unfortunately, just for the translation, there is some glitch. Perhaps, there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Perhaps Mr. Genuis or Ms. Block can finish off. Mr. Genuis, go ahead, please, for 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Thank you. We heard earlier about a case where an employee was had put in place a contract for an outside consultant to give them $5,000 worth of coaching services. And then that employee signed for that contract. Obviously, that employee broke the rules when they signed the contract for themselves. But moreover, I want to ask, is it common at Global Affairs for officials to be able to hire outside consultants to provide them with coaching services?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, this type of activity is permitted.
Is it common?
I don't know if I would say common. I mean, it's not uncommon. We'd have to do a bit of a sample just in terms of the actual numbers, but it's something that happens.
Could you do that, and could you provide the committee back with a list of the number of instances that outside consultants were hired to provide coaching services? We would request that within the usual time frame. Have you ever thought about setting up an internal mentorship process or something, so you don't have to hire outside consultants? Why don't you have the expertise for people to be able to coach and support each other without bringing in external consultants for these expensive kind of nebulous advice contracts?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Just to say, yes, we do have several mentorship programs within the department. And I think, if I think about, we actually have a school within the department that provides a lot of training services to our employees.
Perfect. So why in the world these contracting out for a life coach or something? It just doesn't make any sense to me that the government would spend money hiring external consultants to provide coaching when you already have clearly the internal capacity to provide mentorship and support within the public service.
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think that the hiring of professional services for things like coaching is something that is done across all government departments. And of course, this,
Wow.
It's.
Well, let's start at Global Affairs. Will you provide the information requested then to the committee?
Certainly.
Thank you very much.